sound of many waters thundering now. A song of hope from sons and daughters crying out. Oh.
Live. Thanks, Jelmer. Awesome. Hi, guys. Um, Hi, if you are watching online, and I actually know quite a few people are tonight, so welcome. I'm glad you're here. We are missing you in person though tonight, but it's exam time, so we understand. First of all, welcome to our last interview of the Date Talk series. Yay! So we, over the last 5 weeks, have actually talked about Date Talk and everything dating. We have had, in the first week, Trevor and Yvette talking to us about Decide Your Guide, and let's have a whole one, please. And then in the second week, we had Joris and Lisa for the first time talking to us about the opposite sex, and then the lessons from Lover's Lane. And then last week, we had them for Sex Talk, and I mean, I thought it was hilariously funny, so I hope you did too. At least I had a little bit of fun. And I said some people afterwards, some people told me they actually did that too. So if you've missed any of those, then feel free to go watch them on YouTube. They're all on our channel. But if you still have questions, then you can also just post them somewhere in on our YouTube or Facebook page, and then we'll get back with answers to you. Tonight, we're actually having Tabitha and Maarten with us. And they also have 4 kiddos, big family. They do amazingly good barbecues. And there's always a party waiting to happen at their house. Life in abundance, let's say. Also, very good friends of mine, so I'll be very happy to introduce you to them in a little bit. But firstly, I actually want you guys to get your phones out. And we'll make time for that because, well, we are doing everything on campus for you guys. So that means we also want to hear what you guys want us to talk about, what you're busy with, what you're interested in, how we can help and serve you best. So, for that reason, we've come up with a survey. Yes, and it's on there. Nice. So, this survey is gonna take you like 5 minutes. It's all multiple choice. So I'd say quickly scan the QR code, even if you're watching on YouTube, and just fill that in because we would love to hear what you want to talk about in the next season. So there is going to be a question on there about sermon topics you're interested in, but also which topics are your non-Christian friends interested in, which needs do you currently have as a student. So fill it in, pass it on to your friends, and we would love to get the responses because we will include most of those answers in some of our series that we're doing or in some of our dinner talks or other events that are going to be happening. So I'm going to give you like a few seconds for that if you're busy with it. And then we'll go to Maarten and Tabitha. All right, I saw that already a few people actually filled it in this week, and it's actually already helping me to design the next few series. So, yeah. Is it working, Kara and Jesse? Okay, awesome. You already did it, Manu? You don't have a smartphone? Oh, should I send you the link? It was in the email, I think. If you can't scan the QR code, it's in the email as well, and it's on the Facebook group and on our Instagram page, so you can plenty of places to do it later from. Alrighty. So in the meantime, for those who are online, normally when we are here in person before lockdown and Corona and everything, we actually started with icebreakers and with music first. So what we'll do today is we're gonna actually be starting our icebreakers not in the beginning, but at the end, because of the live stream. It's just more practical if we do them at the end. But if you're gonna come, then we're gonna play some games and also have some fun. It's not just about all the talk and the sitting on our butts because we already do that quite enough, right? So at the end, we're gonna have an icebreaker as well today, and it's gonna be the first of many. And I, for one, am looking forward to some fun. But with that said, Maarten and Tabitha. Maarten is actually on our board of directors, and Tabitha is our prayer minister. In case you haven't met them, they usually come to the Sunday morning service, usually the 11:30 because of the kiddos. So if you come to the Sundays, you might meet them at some point, but they're pretty amazing, and we can learn a lot from them. They've been married for about 14 years, but they're one of those couples I just look up to, and that I'm like, if I can have a relationship, and if I ever have a relationship, I really would like it to be a little bit like that because they're just super cute together. You'll see. Anyway, let's hear from Maarten and Tabitha and just enjoy. Dag Maarten and Tabitha. Hi Maarten and Tabitha. I'm gonna switch to English. But welcome to our Day Talk number 5, our 5th interview. And thank you guys for making time for being here tonight.
Thank you for inviting us.
Yeah, pleasure.
Yeah.
Hi,
You're
everyone.
For those who don't know and haven't had the pleasure of meeting Maarten and Tabitha, they're very good friends of mine and very dear to my heart, just as their kids that we haven't seen well, not enough in the last year with Corona and COVID. But it's such a pleasure to actually introduce you guys because I have a few couples in my life that I really like. God, if I can have a relationship, that is an example for me. And you guys are one of them. So I'm really glad you said yes to tonight. Basically, maybe just start with introducing yourselves and yeah, who you are, what you do, a little bit of your story. Yeah.
Shall I
Yeah.
start just by saying that I have a weird eye because some mosquito hit me. So if I look a little bit creepy, that's not my normal. And now my husband's gonna introduce us.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, this is now for the campus students, so I'm not really familiar with all those people. So my name is Maarten. I'm in church for around 10 years already.
Hey, me too.
You too. And yeah, so I'm serving already quite a bit in church, in the worship or production or everywhere they need me. So yeah, and my wife Tabitha is also here.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm overseeing the prayer ministry, but that's not why we're here. We're here. Do you hear that, guys? There's a Escoman. The kids normally would dance on that because it's time for ice cream. He will move past us. We've been married for what? You remember the data. You're the data guy.
Yeah, for 14 years already. So it's quite a bit, quite some challenges, but it's a very nice time that we had, and we grew a lot in our relationship, and just by doing life together and by talking, and yeah, that's also what we will explain a bit today. And
maybe important is that we dated for 3 years before we got married. That's not, it's not important. It's not a magical number, but because we're talking about date talk, it might be more interesting to know for the people how long we dated. But more, we will speak more about that in the questions, during the questions. We have 4 kids, range between 12 and 2. We have 3 boys and a girl. So Natalia knows it's never quiet in our house. Even our cleaning lady said last time, there's always life in your house. Yeah, even in the morning. So what else do you want to know?
Maybe good to mention that you're a prayer minister in church, if you haven't mentioned that yet. But like some of you might actually know Tabitha from that. Yeah. And I mean, Maarten, you're technically my boss. So I mean,
technically, yes.
Technically.
Mine as well in church, by the way.
But I'm more behind the scenes. So
yeah, that's true. But still, I mean, you're definitely worth getting to know. Yeah.
So for the rest, yeah. So like we mentioned, 17 years together already. And we learned to know each other in college. So we went to the same college in Ghent. And yes, maybe you don't see it anymore from me, but I did sports.
Yeah, me too. Back in the day.
Back in the days. And yeah, that's where we had the privilege to meet each other. And
that's quite a God story. Yeah, because I studied history. I studied from the University of Ghent, and I had a thesis here. I had to still finish my thesis. But it was the only thing what I was still left. And I was thinking like just doing a thesis a whole year, just being on my own, basically Corona year, that I wasn't up for that. So I thought like I was a swimmer back then, my early days. And I basically said to my mom and dad, hey, can I start a new study while I'm finishing my thesis? And crazy enough, my parents were all for the idea. They thought I was brilliant. So I started to become a teacher in physics. And that is where I met you. Because your story was...
My story was I also studied to become a teacher in physics. And there is one of our youngest boys who's screaming now. So I will just finish my story then. So I was studying first in Leuven. My year didn't went as it should have been. So I just wanted to redo my first year. And I was loving it there in Leuven. I had great friends, great school, high performance. But still in August, my parents were still thinking from, hey, but maybe you need to think about maybe go to another school in Antwerp or in Ghent or what. I said, no, 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 no. I do want to do it again in Leuven. And for some reason, and again, it's in God's hand that the change went. But eventually, I think it was the first week of September, I still decided, okay, maybe I should have a look at the Hoogint next to St. Peter's. And yeah, eventually I went to Ghent, and yeah, there in the first 3-4 months of our education, that's where I get to know Tabitha as well. So in that kind of way, it's really a bit led by him. So yeah, that's a part of my story. And here she comes again.
Sorry, kids.
That's okay.
So yeah, I explained the situation from Leuven. And
I trust you only said good things.
He did. He absolutely did. I don't think I've ever heard him say anything else. So I think we're good, Tabitha.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe what is one funny thing that you can just share? Like, can be ridiculous.
One funny thing,
Yeah.
just out of our relationship.
I know.
Or about yourself. Like one funny thing.
I know one. First time we were at the sea in Blankenberge, and the first time I went to dinner with her.
You took me out.
I took her out for dinner, and we went to a seafish restaurant.
Yeah.
And we just had our backpack, not even dressed that nice or something like that. And we ordered, and we needed to count how much the food would be because we only had. Oh no! We just ordered our food, and then we wanted to check out and ask for the bill, and then they told us, "Oh no! You can only pay here cash." And we were like, "Oh no!" So and then even until the last cent, we grabbed everything out of our backpack to check if we can still even find little cents. And I think was it
on
the cent correctly. I don't know how much the amount was. Let's say 63 euros and 50 cents. We needed to find the last 50 cents in our bag in order to pay for the food. We thought we could do otherwise we needed to do the dishes over there or something to pay our bill. So that was a little stress, but funny moment for a first dinner.
Real dinner date.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
I don't know what you were thinking of.
The first time he wanted to take me out, I was like,
"Oh yeah,
let's test him." I don't know. I just felt he's gonna ask me, like I just felt he would say to me that he really liked me and he wanted to a relationship. And I felt that question coming, and I was like, I'm not ready for this yet. I'm okay with just walking with you and things like that, but I'm not ready for that. So I thought it was in the freezing winter. It was really freezing, and we studied at at a Hogeschool Ghent, so behind the St. Peter's. And I thought, as long as I keep him walking, he will not pop the question. So we went for a walk, 2 hours through the freezing cold, and I refused to sit for longer than I don't know what, because I was like, as long as we keep walking, he's not gonna ask. He ended up asking, of course, because he was like, this girl is not gonna stop walking. But yeah, I did that 2 times actually.
I think I've seen almost the whole of Ghent in that walk. In the freezing cold.
Yeah.
I'll need to remember that one.
Just keep them walking.
This was only in the first few months of our relationship, so you can imagine how many.
We didn't have a relationship. You were about to ask, I was like.
In our dating period.
Yeah.
Let's say.
Okay, I'll remember that one if I ever need it. Might come in handy, but yeah. So just to kind of set up the context, so we over the past few weeks, we've talked about the first week, Decide Your Guide, and I'll have a whole one, please, with Trevor and Yvette. And then we had one about the opposite sex with Joris and Lisa, and then about lessons from Lover's Lane, which is basically, past relationships that didn't go very well, past dating experience, and what can we learn from them. And then last week we talked about the sex talk. That was a long one, but a very funny one. And so this week in this session, we're gonna go a lot back to Lover's Lane, and then comparing that towards like, okay, the highway. Like we've learned a lot over the past 4 weeks now. How can we actually apply it? And then, you guys will be able to share a lot about your story as well. So I wanted to start off by asking you guys the question of what would be a good way to do relationships and dating and avoid the pitfalls of Lover's Lane. I know that's kind of a rather broad question, but it's a good place to start, I think.
This is my question. I think, we prepared a little bit and we said like, this one you can answer, this one you can answer. I was looking at my notes. Who should answer this one? I think when you're in that situation where you want to date, you can just start constantly looking around you and just have one objective, that's to find a mate. And I do understand that desire, and especially as you see other people or your friends getting together with someone, it's tempting to just get into that mode, and not even sometimes just in that mode because you see everyone around you do that, and not even being sure if that's what you want at that season. And I think I love what the book says about just seek first the kingdom of God and all the rest will be added for you. And that's really something that I've seen in my own life as well, where I came out of a wrong relationship, a relationship that wasn't healthy, it wasn't good. And at one point I just said to God, I give it all to you. Help me get out of this, just because this is really not good. This is really destructive. And God did, because God had been waiting for my green light to do that. And so I came out of that season and I was like, God, I really want to do it your way. I really want to both of us were in a season where we weren't looking at all. And I think, that was just a good one. If I look at our own situation, I do understand that at a certain age, there's so many people around you that get into dating and things like that it asks a lot of character and a lot of stability in your own life to say like, God, and an incredible relationship with God, to just say like, God, I trust you in that. I trust that you are the shepherd. And our 2-year-old, I'm now reading bedside stories about Jesus and things like that, and then he asked me to sing a song, and he just learned the word like herder, and he can shepherd in Dutch, and he can hardly say it, and he says like, Jezus goede herder. And I think that's the Amplified says that the Lord is our shepherd, we shall not want, and the Lord is our shepherd to guide, to shield, and to feed you. And we have no want. And I think it's coming to that relationship where you really trust God and say like, God, you made me, you made the whole of me. You know my inside out. You know who I need. You know how you've made me. You put your calling in my life. You put all of those things. And I'm even going to trust you in that. And in between, while we are doing life, I want to enjoy life. Because if you're just focused on that, you're going to miss out of a lot of good friends, good relationships that have nothing to do with dating, but that are just so fulfilling and so satisfying to have good friends. And if you're only focused on having a relationship, then you're missing out of that. And as you can read in the chapter, and I just highly recommend everyone that then you're seeing that you need those friends in place, because even if you're starting to date, there's always that risk that it's not going to turn out. And then those friends and this family, the relationship that you cultivated and grown, those are going to be there for you, and those are what Wolfie calls the insurance that you have. And we need that. So I think that's one of the big things. Enjoy life is, yes, dating is a part of life, but it's not the whole life. And someone once said to me, like, where you focus on becomes bigger in your life. And if you're just focusing on that, it becomes your whole world. Well, if you give it back the perspective that it's a part of life, but it's not the whole life. You wanted to add something, no?
Yeah. So even if you want to start dating, I know it's excited and you're happy inside, but keep doing the things that you did before as well, because it will also give you energy, and will give you a good view on how life looks like, or yeah, it's just a good way of connecting also to the person you want to date with, and later on you can start doing those things together as well, with your friends, with her friends, the other way around, and that's how you get to know each other. And yeah,
I think we did that as well, in our life. We one thing that helped was that he lived in Puurs and I lived in Ghent, so we couldn't just be the whole time together, because it's normal. You are attracted to each other, you want to know each other, so there's always that pitfall of just totally absorbing in each other. But I think that's one of the pitfalls as well, because you go too fast, too deep. And I'm not just speaking about the physical attraction, but also about the emotional connection. While there's a time where you just that start of just doing things slower and getting to know each other, there's a season for everything. And even the dating season is not just one season, it's different phases within that dating season, where you first just your friends and you get to know each other, then you just share a little bit about how you feel, you make walks, long walks, and those things where and even in the emotional thing, if it goes too fast, you get too quick. And I think that's, especially as a woman, it's easy to just go too fast in the emotional thing, where you overshare, where it's not yet to the level of the commitment that you have together. I forget what the point I wanted to make. Help me, save me.
sometimes I also don't know which point I want to make.
Okay, let's land it here.
Even
Next
after
question.
7 years. So.
Hey.
But you will get to it in a few minutes.
Yeah.
If you remember, Tabitha, you can always add it in somewhere.
Yeah.
But yeah. But I kind of like what you say here, because I think one of the pitfalls that you mentioned is definitely isolation, and that, like you said, kind of tend to absorb all the time with someone. But I've also heard about couples that have the opposite, that just like it's like a month or so that they totally disappear, and then all of a sudden they totally absorb each other again, and then it's kind of like that emotional push and pull. I can't describe it anything else, but I think that's maybe the opposite of it, but both exist. And
I think both are unhealthy.
And both,
the point that I want to make, it's just like, we had the advantage somehow that we lived far away, and you could have the car of your parents. I couldn't drive at the beginning.
No.
But and it was just, we still had our friends, but also you were very strong on that. You had a good cultivated friendships here and a life here that blossomed. So
I did I was in the youth movement for almost, no, at that time, no more, 17 years or something like that. So I had a real close friendship over there as well. I played 15 years, 17 years of tennis as well, also in competition. So I also had there a part of the friendship, and where I took my time. And yeah, it was just a healthy thing to still have both. And of course, you're eager to be with each other. Or I took the train to Ghent just to come to you for 1 hour or something, and then took an hour train back, and then so of course, and that's also a healthy heart situation. If you are feeling good and you want to get to know each other, then it's good to do those things. But yeah, we can still recommend also keep doing your own life in the beginning, and then see how it flows. And yeah,
and merge more and more, so to speak, as the relationships comes by, and then the total merge is basically when you get married, and that's a significant new season where different merging comes by, like Joris and Lisa spoke about the sex talk. That is one of the things, but also just the emotional. That is just a I think the pitfall. Um, I think it's the emotional one is something that we often don't think about, because we're so, as Christians, so looking at this physical pitfall where you're thinking like, we cannot come there. And I'm pretty sure Joris and Lisa covered it all. But this emotional, I think that's a big one as well, to just know how to do those emotions well. And also how to communicate well. Like the book speaks about this connection. Like uh, Wolfie speaks about a highway, the picture of a highway, and in a highway, when you want to change lane or shift lanes, you have to put your fingers. How do you say that? Fingers.
yeah, I
Like
don't.
your lights, like your orange lights on, to make a sign to everyone else, I'm moving to that line. And so he says, like, you should do that in a relation well. Basically what he says, be clear in what you feel and where you want to go. Don't keep each other in the dark. Be clear. And Brené Brown has written an amazing book, Dare to Lead, and one of the things that she says there is, clear is kind, unclear is unkind. And I think that is so applicable here. Just, it's unkind, and it's not like Wolfie speaks about lusters and lovers. It's a sign of immaturity if you cannot be clear, and it's unkind if you are not clear. You have to want to save each other's feelings, but that is more a sign of just, I think, immaturity and just selfishness, because often we're more afraid of the reaction that we're going to get, because clear is kind. So communicate. And you, again, you were very good at that, to just clearly communicate what you want.
But it's still a guideline, even if you are dating, or if you are just married, or even after 10 years of marriage. I can just highly recommend you keep being clear to each other, because even after 10 years, we still got to know each other.
14 years.
Yeah, now after 14 years, but I mentioned a couple of years back, we were still there to get to know each other in another way, or in a better way, or how you react in some kind of situations, and but you can only do that when you are very clear to each other. But we are taking over your whole conversation here, so
It's okay. It's okay. That's totally fine.
but you interrupt us when we need to stop.
Yeah.
I will, but I think you guys already started a little bit on the next question that I was going to ask, as in, what would a highway journey look like? So maybe you can elaborate a little bit on that, and then just tie in some stories and examples from how you guys did it and what that might look like.
Yeah, actually, a bit like she was saying already, yeah, like changing the lanes and being very clear to each other. It's very important to do.
Respecting also, like the book gives, like, what is it, 8 codes, and I love that, because it was, for me, it was really fun to read, because it was like, how did we do that? Because back in the days we didn't have this book, and I love the book. I love these codes and things like that, because it's just like almost like a checklist where you can see like how I am doing, because sometimes you're so observed by someone or your date and things like that that you don't always have the right perspective. And I think one of the things that they're also saying is like get others involved, and that is something that I did deliberately. Um, I think my sister was one of them, because she's my older sister, and even though we're not the type of sisters that are constantly like best friends or whatever, her opinion really matters to me. So the fact that she said like, Tabitha, I think he's a good guy, I think you should give it a try.
Very thankful. Very thankful for that, because otherwise it may be turned the other way around. So,
absolutely, that was for me a really big, like a green box to just embark this journey and see. And I think one of the things as well, I spoke already about the emotional how do you say that, the emotional boundaries and things like that. um I lost my thread again. It's getting late. I need my bed. It's it's yeah, that's something that my mom says, and that I see in sometimes in couples. Like, don't the dating period is really a discovering moment. It's not, you're not married yet. You don't have to commit for life yet, and that is a big one. And I've seen couples that want to do things so well, Christian couples, that they are dating and that they feel like now they have to marry with this guy, and that's not true. It's a journey, and you can say, even the day before your marriage, you can still say, I don't think this is the right person for me. And I want to say to this audience, just if that is you, you are not committed to that person yet. This period is really to find out. So marriage is a big thing. It's a yes, I promise to just be next to you. So don't take this decision lightly. And the book also gives some signs if there are red flags. And I think family and friends that really love you, that have a more objective look at you, who are not in love and seeing all the rose petals and things like that, listen to them. Even if you don't want to hear, listen to them. For example, if there is one-sided relationship where you are all in and the other person is just saying like, I'm not there, you are emotional already, like 5 steps ahead, that's a sign.
Yeah, just like it goes together with the going for one party you're going too fast, for the other party you're going too slow, because one may say, oh no, why aren't we marrying yet, or and the other one says, oh, maybe we need to know. You need to be careful with that you're not going too fast but also not going too slow. Once you know you're there for each other and you have committed your heart to each other and chosen for each other, don't wait too long as well. Don't see the dating period as, oh no, we are obliged to have 3 or 4 years or 5 years of dating first before we can marry. I think you can agree on this one. If after some times you feel that everything is feeling well and good and just on emotional space and talks, you see that it's all correct and that okay, this is the person, just I would say just go for it and take the decision and then move on to the next step in your dating or marriage process, which is also a very important thing.
Yeah, I think some people are going too fast, and that's, I think, like he says in the book, like on a highway you can't go too fast because then you have problems, but also too slow. And some people are making this dating period like forever. And how can you then, I always say like, hey, you're not friends, you're attracted for a reason. How can you stay within the guidelines if you're dating for 7 years. That's just I find it hard to believe because you're just there are some things like hormones and things like that just kick in big time.
And they're only getting stronger after a while.
Which is logical, but also going too fast can be again, it's a big commitment.
Yeah.
But there are some signs that should really be red lights, like one-sided, like a lies, even little lies. If little lies are there, just make that a big red sign. Even if it seems like nothing, it's just that trust that gets robbed, and that trust is so important in a relationship. And manipulation, of course, and compromise, violation of your boundaries. If someone is crossing your boundaries, don't take that lightly. And don't let someone else and say like, but you were so, why did you have that boundary? If you chose that boundary, people should respect that. Everyone should respect that, but especially the one that needs to earn your trust even more. And then controlling, of course, and devaluation. Don't let, I think for me, that's a real big one, that devaluation. Even when you're married, you're not, I find it so important that what I say about you, even when you're not there, is always honoring, is always making sure that others think the best of you. And I know you do that as well. And that is our responsibility. And when you're married, that doesn't mean you cannot share truth, but you're presenting someone. We're one. We're looking out for each other, and that's what you do. So if you feel like your dating partner is talking, like belittling you and things like that, that's a big red sign. Even if he says it's just a joke, or she says it's just a joke, or whatever, it's not funny. Does that answer your question a little bit?
Yes, I'm actually very glad you guys named them and actually like the last one now gave an example of how you guys do that as well. Because I remember I've heard you say that so often already, Tabitha. Like it's one of the things that has stuck with me from both of you. Like, Natanya, we watch how we speak about each other, and this is the reason why. And I think it, especially in this society, it's almost so logic to talk down about someone or to even just say something sarcastically, jokingly, but like, I mean, in Dutch, al lachen is echt een zotse mening. And I think especially even when you're dating, it's just such a big sign, because I can imagine that when you're married and you already have those signs when you're dating, it only
goes up.
bigger. It grows. It grows up, and it becomes. It has the potential of becoming things like verbal abuse or control or stuff like that. And you're so used to it. It goes so gradually. You're not even aware of it. And it's actually a sign of a of an immature person that you're dating at that point.
But it goes even further. It goes even if we take it in a bigger scope than just dating.
Yeah.
You don't do that for your friends. The same for kids. We sometimes say like, yeah, mijn kind, schoonkind in Dutch. But I'm always saying like, if we're not telling, just stoeven, like we say in Dutch, over our kids, who else is gonna do it? If we're not sticking up and saying how great they are, who else is gonna do it? It's our job. Yeah. So it's our job for you as a friend to just say the best about you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's such a good one. I'm really glad you pointed that out and that you went actually over the list. That was so well. I think like we can move that in a little bit to the next question, and I think you probably have already touched on that right now. But yeah, the next question was going to be, what is the difference in how we behave when we take the highway journey versus lover's lane? And we were going to refer to the codes in particular. So yeah, maybe you can touch a little bit more on that still.
actually, I always need to think about the difference that Wolf is talking about is between the lovers and the lusts, and I think this also comes into this point. And as lover, as a lover, you want to try to listen to the other person, to take care of them, and just also on emotional level, on other levels as well. And yeah, but there are so many people who are just, yeah, sorry to say, but very selfish and just say, no, it's all about me and I want you to do this, and yeah, that's just not the way it goes. And it's so important to listen to each other and to communicate with each other. Yeah. And to value each other, like my wife just mentioned.
You are so good at that. You are just, if you know the redemptive gift, he's a servant. So I really married the best. Sorry, ladies. You are brilliant at that. You are so outward focused. I can learn a lot about you from you.
But just also be intentional in different things, in getting to know each other. Like, even after a few years of marriage, one of the first years we were in every nation, we also did the redemptive gifts, but we also did things like Trevor speaks a lot of it about Strengths Finder and stuff like that. But it helped us so much, because once we have done those tests as well, I understood better how she was reacting in certain circumstances. But now I'm aware of that and I know, but okay, but that's how my wife thinks. And if I want to say something or need to do something, I need to go into that direction, because that's the way how she works. And that's the thing about giving, taking it, and it works both ways. I think for her, same thing. I also had some strengths where she thought, oh, I didn't know that your mind is set up like that. And now over the last 5-6 years, it made life easier. So I would also really recommend, if you have the opportunity in your dating process, and you are getting into the stage of, okay, I think this can work out, do such kind of aptitude. Yeah, show that commitment and do this kind of aptitude tests, just in order to get to know each other more and know how their mind is, how their brain is working. Sorry to say, but every woman's brain works differently, I guess.
But the man also, I guess.
Yeah. But no, it's such an important part to know, and it just helps you just to, how do you say that? Relativeren? I don't know how you mention that in English. I'm very sorry. But
to have a more peaceful life.
Yeah. Let's say it like that.
Yeah, for us, Strength Finder was a big win. It was just that it verbalized, it gave words to how we did. To give some examples.
Not that we had a bad relationship or something.
No, people know that. No, I think, like, for example, to give an example, we would be in church and I would not be at the right door, and I would turn to him and say, like, that was a great sermon. What are we going to do about this? How are we going to change our lives? And I thought that was just a normal Christian life. That was how we should react on things. Then I found out for him, it causes a lot of stress, because he was like, whoa, I'm not even out of the door. Let me first reflect on that and see in things. And I was like, what kind of thing is that? And then we discovered that I was an activator. An activator is someone that moves really quickly and is continually thinking, like, how can this change, or how can I prove? He works totally different. So that just gave us words for me to, at the beginning, I would just say, okay, my activator is kicking in. I want to do something about it. But it also gave perspective. This is not a Christian thing or not, being a good Christian or not at all. that had nothing to do with it. It was just the way how I functioned. So he was as well a good Christian, or as well whatever. He had just a different way of thinking.
Now she gives me another hour to think about
Yeah,
something.
now I say like,
No.
yeah. But the same, like, you are harmony. You like things to be just in peace. And I'm always saying, like,
if she's in stress, I cannot be in peace.
I always say, like, he is like a lake, and he wants it, it's a perfectly smooth lake. And I'm in the bushes around the lake, and I'm throwing rocks in it, like, constantly. And he's constantly trying, like, to make sure everything is straight again. It is, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
I think one of the talking in a relationship is really important. Get to know each other, and get also to know what is really important for me. I remember one thing, that he was going through a very hard time at one point. I don't remember exactly. We were still at the school, at college. And I remember he was going, and he had no clue about this. I only told you recently that was for me a maker or a breaker in our relationship. And I was at that point, I was watching him, and I just made that comment in my own heart, saying, like, I wonder if he's gonna
act like this.
No. If he's gonna involve me in this, or if he's gonna shut me out in processing this. And that for me was a test, because I knew if he would just kick me out of this whole thing and not share anything with me, I wouldn't continue probably in that relationship, because I was like, in our life, we're gonna have even bigger things that we bump into. And if he's not capable of, even in this early season where he's still all over the moon with me, involve me in some degree, then it's not gonna happen later as well. So luckily he did. Luckily for you. That doesn't mean that he processes things the same as me. He's very different, as you can even say. Yeah. We thought when we were dating that we were very similar, and we do have some values that are the same.
Yeah, we do.
But the longer we're married, the more we discover that we are complete opposites.
Most opposites.
But when we speak about processing and problems, he's an internal processor. So at night when we all go in bed, because we even have different rhythms, he is a night owl, and I was an early bird. So even after he put me in bed, because that's how different hours are for us, he goes for a walk just to process the day. I'm a verbal processor, as you can tell. I would just talk and talk, and I need someone to talk, to just hear myself talk. And that's why I like prayer. I just verbal process with God, just in those things. And so it's not the fact that we are different. It's the fact that he made me part of the fact that he was going through a difficult time. And so there are some things that you have to figure out, like, what will this be? Like you said, when you're married, it will blow up, it will become bigger. So even the good stuff. So I know we didn't really went through the code, but we already had spoken in the last. We needed to find some new stuff to talk about.
No, that's okay. One thing that you haven't mentioned that I was thinking about while you were mentioning the aptitude test, and specifically because you mentioned or you highlighted Wolfie's lovers versus lust or lusters, is maybe the love languages and how that played a role in, for example, dating. Because I think that can be.
It helps. It helps in everything. Just not in dating, not only in marriage, even with our kids. Once you know the real love language of your kids, it's so much more easy to communicate with them. And it's only in our own family. Yeah. But if you have a friend at school, or I don't know what, and you know what that person's love language is, it makes a massive difference in how you communicate to each other.
Explain what love languages are.
Okay, so maybe for the people who didn't hear of love languages, there's also been written a good book out of it. The
5 love languages.
I only know the title in Dutch.
Chapman.
de 5 talen van de liefde. So, but it actually indicates what kind of love language, or if you speak to your heart, what's the best way to you receive love. It can be through gifts, through nice words, hugs in the quality time, and what's the last one, Natanya?
Words of affirmation.
Words of affirmation. Yeah. So, and even in our own family, our 4 kids, I think they all have 4 different love languages. So,
our daughter has a big test on Friday, and it was way too complicated for me. And I know it's the favorite theme of our oldest son, and I know she loves, her love language is quality time. So I think it really was like a Holy Spirit moment, because I was like, now I have to learn this test with her, and I'm not, how am I going to do it? It's about stroombronnen and dergelijke meer, like renewable energy and things like that. I'm like, I'm not interested
and
in
you
that.
will be so frustrated because it doesn't go like Noemi wants it, and then she gets frustrated, and
it's just one tension, stress moment.
Yeah, she already asked me, "Can you do it please today?" I said, "No, I will do it tomorrow. I'm quite tired."
Yeah. And I was like, when I get stressed, it's gonna create this opposite effect, especially because she has quality time as love language. And then suddenly, and Silas came along, and he said, like, he's our oldest, and he had this already seen, and he was like, "Oh, what's my favorite team?" And suddenly I thought, like, wow, you could be the match. So I hooked them up together. I would take his chores for a couple of days, and he would learn the test with Noemi, which is a double bonus because he's a brilliant teacher. He can explain and is incredibly patient. Noemi gets to have quality time with her brother, which
he also loves,
and which he really needs.
And really desires, because Silas is in the stage with his own friends, and he goes away. We don't see him for the rest of the afternoon, and it doesn't always please Noemi like that. So now it was a real good opportunity to get them together. And they said, I think for 30 minutes, they sat together now, and Silas was explaining and how the things work. And
so it just even goes into that.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's word of affirmations and acts of service. Yes. That's a big one for me as well. I discovered that lately.
Luckily, I'm a servant. So.
For you, it's quality time. It's just,
Okay. Yeah, I think the reason why I asked it, and so like, it's not always intentional. Sometimes it's just dating is just like, oh, the whole physical thing, and you don't necessarily pay attention to all the others. And I mean, the quality time is there, but it's very specific a lot of the times, which you just gave examples of different ways of doing that. That's kind of the reason why I asked it. Because I do think, like, the moment you start getting creative about it, or learning even how to speak from the beginning, that, I mean, yes, on the one hand, Proverbs says, guard your heart from it flows the springs of life, or everything from life. But on the other hand, if you can start to speak that already, you can avoid a lot of the pitfalls we already spoke about. And it's just an intentional thing that you can do, like you said, even with your friends. So yeah, thanks for touching on that even. Yeah, but that maybe brings us with one of the questions you already touched about as well a little bit, but I don't think we mentioned it completely. But when we spoke about levels of commitment, and now I just mentioned Proverbs guarding your heart. But what are some good boundaries, and how would you define boundaries while you're dating, and levels of commitment, for example, as well? And why
are those necessary, and how can I respect that? So we said we need to be clear about where we're at with each other. Clear is kind, but how do you actually respect other people's boundaries? How do you define them? Why are they necessary? It's kind of a mouthful, I know, but
Yeah.
You just respect it. You just do that. That's just the best way. You don't, it's again like the difference between you want to get your way and getting you focus, or your me focus, instead of getting really loving someone and say like, hey, I want to respect you. You can only be generous if your boundaries are respected. That was another like quote from Brené Brown, and that was such an eye opener for me as well. If you, Natanya, you respect my boundaries, then I have something to give. If you cross them, I have nothing to give because you already stole it, basically. Um, so
It also guards your emotions, or it guards your heart when you know that the opposite sex or your partner is respecting you. It gives you a safe feeling, and you can
trust.
It creates trust. You can open up your heart maybe that one step more than you initially thought to do, because you know, no, I know he will be on my side, he will listen to me, he understands me. And actually it all turns about also the giving part. It's like the fruits of the spirit. It starts with love, and love is also a key word in this kind of things. Love, respect.
Just the foundation that you want for your later relationship. I think the book also says about, I already touched about this quite a lot, but just about this emotional sharing. Some things you don't share at the beginning of your relation. It's not because you said yes to getting to know each other that you share your whole heart immediately. And I think that's a key thing also. Like, there are levels where you first, you gain your trust, like you say. You show respect for each other. You show so it is a journey.
It's indeed a journey you make together. And then, to be honest, those boundaries, they will create themselves. In some kind of, if you understand what I mean, because of course you can always say, okay, let's do this. We don't want to cross that border or that border. That's, you can always mention it like that, but I think with us it also flowed like the level of commitment you showed.
Speaking about emotional boundaries.
I'm talking about emotional
because I think the physical boundaries is something that there are clear boundaries between that, but the emotional, it's can you trust that person? Don't get your heart, like your woe feelings, in the way and overshare. Also, even the other person in your relationship, even if you said like, yes, I want to get to know you, like yes to dating, don't assume that he's completely or she's completely trustworthy from the first thing. Seek that out. Go on a journey. That's what dating is all about. This journey of checking those things. Yes, of course, before you say I want to date with you, you want to have this friendship already where you know you can trust that. But and the book also says something about just be wise. Even if you're not dating, be wise with what you share of emotions with the opposite sex. And I think that's a big one as well. Because sharing hearts creates a bond as well. It creates a coming together as well. And you can say, yeah, but we're not touchy or whatever. It doesn't matter. There's this heart connection that you have. And I think we all know that with friends. Tanya, you and I, we shared things out of our heart because we are good friends and we have this history of trusting each other and being trustworthy to each other, that we're not sharing here on this recording, because that comes out of that relationship, and that created a strong connection between both of us. And that's the same that happens also with the opposite sex. So guard those boundaries the same, and that's an important one, especially when one of you is already dating. That's, you don't do that. You guard those boundaries when someone else is dating or married. Be wise in that, because you don't have to have sex to just have a bond with each other. Does that answer a little bit your question?
Yeah, I think so. I think I like that you guys emphasized that it's about trust, and as you become more trustworthy to one another, there comes a safety, and with that, you can start sharing a little bit more every single time. But you don't do that from the beginning, and I also think it's probably again about just the levels of commitment as well in the beginning, as it is just casual. I mean, you're getting to know each other, what one person likes, what another person doesn't like. But I'm not going to share with you my biggest heart secret that I've been struggling with for, I don't know. That is only for much later, probably. So,
yeah, exactly.
And they are logic, but I'm glad you guys pointed it out in a way, as in I do realize it's not for everyone as logic. Or for everyone as evident.
I think
to
you made,
actually have it happen naturally, for example.
I think you pointed that out. You gave a good example. Your big, huge traumas, you're not gonna share that on your first date. That's gonna, even though you feel enormous click with that person, there is no commitment yet between you and that other person. So there's two big red alarms in that example. First, make sure you're not, because you feel a big wall, you're already getting emotionally attached to that person, while that other person has not communicated, or was just like, hey, let's get a drink together. And the second thing is like, you're sharing your biggest thing, and you don't even know if that other person is ready for that, can take it emotionally, or can, is trustworthy.
Yeah, or just like integrity, maturity to handle those things. How are they gonna process? If we break up or if we stop dating, is it gonna end up somewhere that I don't want it to go?
And they don't know you as well. They don't know you well enough to give you the whole. If you're sharing that big trauma, they cannot see that, in fact, you have come out better at the end, or whatever, or how you handle that. They just hear that, so they don't have context at all about you.
Yeah, I think that one is really good. Next to all the physical boundaries, and even just the time. I mean, the time, as in Maarten spent time in person with the youth movement and with his tennis, and you had your things. Even those are boundaries that you put into place, and that's healthy. To have them there. So even that is just a form of a boundary. And I think the way Trev, for example, explains boundaries usually is boundaries are there to make sure you still have something to give, is to protect your love for the other person. I think that's what it comes down to, probably. Yeah.
Exactly.
Sure.
Yeah.
Not having the book, we did a good job dating.
Yeah.
Well done, you.
Oh, awesome. So, how did you guys involve God in dating, in doing relationship, even now in married life? Has there been a progress from, how you did that? And maybe just a few tips of how people can date with God, as Tabitha, you started off with the scripture of seek first the kingdom of God and make that your priority. So even just like, yeah, how do you do that? How do you involve God in it?
I think you should already start praying once you see a person from the opposite sex with you, where you think of, oh, I want to get to know her. Already start praying about it, and I'm sure he will give you the answers you need as well. So that's the first stage. And again, like, I think clear from the beginning, there was clear communication between us and expectations. And it was a good way to move forward on. So
I think it's about your heart in the first place. God is always interested in your heart. For me, like I said, I'm a verbal processor, so prayer helps in that sense. But I think it's about lordship and heart. Like, do you love him more than you love being in a relationship, or do you love him more than you love the guy or the girl that you're dating? That if he says like, this is not the best that I have for you, it means that also the opposite, that you're not the best for that other person. And that's sometimes good to think about, because if you really love that person, you want the best. So it's a two-edged sword, basically. And it's like, God, I really love this, but if you have, I love you more. I love you more. And I believe that you are, again, my good shepherd. You will guide me, shield me, and feed me and protect me, and all those things. So my first affection is for you. So God, guide me in this, because this is a big decision. And as I see just how, yeah, you want to add something?
yeah, and then you also come to the state, you have your own separate time with God, and where you check out, do some checkpoints on certain things, but then you start dating and you start involving each other's, or get into each other's life, and then God comes in the middle of you in terms of, hey, we all already walk away together with you, we as man and wife, or man and woman, and then go together with God, and then you go to church, you start going to church together, and then yeah, there was no single moment that he wasn't involved in our lives, actually. So
I think it's just the message. I love now the Passion Translation. I read this even this morning in our prayer meeting, like when in Matthew, there is this moment where people came to Jesus to tempt him, like the Pharisees, and they wanted to get him to say something wrong. And some of those groups said, like, what is the biggest commandment? And Jesus says, like, love the Lord your God. And in the Passion Translation, they translate it as love the Lord with all your energy, all your something else, and then all your thought. And that just, I've been thinking about that since I read that, because it's about this passion inside of you. It's the same thing when you're in love. It's just like you constantly think about that person. And just reminded me of this verse that says, pray without ceasing. I think the only way how you can pray without ceasing is when you're greatly in love, because then you constantly have the other person in your mind. And I think that is how we should love God, in such a way. And I think then the praying without ceasing and the constant being in connection with God and having him involved and having him this first place, this first one, that he can just guide you in all those things. It just comes naturally, because your heart is connected with him and your heart is under his lordship.
Yeah, absolutely. Other than involving God in dating, and even from before you start dating, like Maarten said, pray from the beginning if you see someone, for example, that you would like to get to know. Did you involve, you Tabitha mentioned your sister in the beginning, that was an important person for you while you were dating, but did you involve other people while you were dating, and what did that look like? Did you do that intentionally?
I think you have always people on the sideline, which who knows you a bit better than the other one. Let's say in first instance, for me, even my parents, when they hear me talking to her or when she came over for the first few times, it's always like that. Parents also have their thoughts about with certain people. And
certain people? What do you mean?
no, but just in general,
yeah.
If someone comes and starts talking, then everyone makes, how do you say that?
They want the best for you, parents. So they are good. Normally, they are a good group of people or group of people, a little group of people that you want to get involved because they have your best interest often in mind.
Yeah.
Because you're their little boy or their little girl that they raise, and they are very selective on who they're gonna bring.
So they will already show you if they are feeling well or if they are fine with it or if they maybe have doubts, and then really these are things you should take into account. I know maybe at that moment you're still young and you don't want to hear those kind of answers because that's
especially from your parents.
Especially from your parents, but that's also possible. But still, we do recommend listen to it and touch base it, and then your friends are also such an important part because you probably will talk after. If I was dating her and I brought her for the first time and you bring it into a group of friends, afterwards you always get reactions from how it went, and then you can immediately see, okay, they are totally fine, they liked it, so they are also good with it. Not that they need to decide if you need to go through or not, but they always give a great measurement on.
However, choose your friends carefully. You have friends who will just applaud you that you found someone, that will just be like, oh, it's so great, you have someone, now we can double date and things like that. Those are not the people you want to listen to. You want to have some people in your life that you can trust, that again, apart from your parents, want to specifically just get that boy or that girl just checked on certain things that you value, that you might miss because you're in love, or those values suddenly are not that important anymore. It's normal. We've all been there. And that's why you have to have those friends. I studied a year abroad and I spent time in a family that became really dear to me, that I trusted, especially because the mom and dad were really an example for me in how they did relationships and things like that. So I took you there quite in the beginning already. And for me,
those were the 15 people that needed to check me out.
And I, again, some things just, I didn't define them like that necessarily, but in the back of my mind, they were like the checkpoints for me. Like if they would, especially my one friend that is just such a close friend, and we prayed together on her bed when I lived there, just for our future husbands. We prayed together, and I recommend everyone doing that. When you are waiting for someone, just pray for them already. Buy something that can remind you of praying for that person, and we prayed that they would follow God and all those things, and then I knew they would tell me if Maarten wouldn't meet that criteria when I would bring him. Right. So yeah. I think those are some examples.
Yeah, that just goes very well with. We've talked a lot about in the last few weeks about dating and community, and being intentional about that. So that just really adds up to what we've been saying for the past 4 or 5 weeks already. So
it must be true.
Yeah, but it definitely is. I mean, and even while you're single, I have a list. I know, like, and those people also know, like, okay, the moment I start dating, and I have been there in the past. That's like those are the people I go to first, and
Yeah.
I know that like they keep me accountable. They
Mm.
keep me on the ground because I mean,
We need that.
yeah, we need that.
But
Just
they will also be there when, like we said, a relationship is it's like a discovery. And
Yeah.
if at some point you discover like
It doesn't work.
that it doesn't work, it's those friends that you need as to fall back on.
Yeah.
And say like to be there to cry on their shoulder, but also have that like, hey, have those empathy and saying like, it sucks, it really sucks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we know we ticked a lot of the emotional and hard barriers today, and not really on other stuff like physical things. But I'm
Joris
pretty
understood it,
sure that last week you all covered it all. So
They can always go rewatch that. It's on YouTube. So I mean,
yeah.
and on Facebook, so they're fine, I think. But yeah, thanks for that. That like for me, that's one of the most important ones that I really wanted to highlight in this series. So that maybe to end off, what are a few last tips that you would give people on how to move forward on this journey of dating, starting to date, relationships?
I have the feeling we need to repeat ourselves on all the things.
You don't have to. If you like, I mean, you don't have to repeat yourself. Like Trevor's tip was just have fun. If you don't have fun, you're doing it wrong. So
I was about to say the same, like have fun, both with the discovery and the whoa and like woo, but also just with like I said at the beginning, like life is more than just that. Have fun with friends, have fun in life, enjoy the sun, enjoy like eating an ice cream, just cultivate that deep gratitude in life because it's going to give you so much fun. It's like this well to have fun in.
And like she said about this wow factor, because it's a moment in life where you feel uplifted, where not so many things can go wrong. If you see the right person and you start dating and everything is going well, just enjoy it, because these are our precious times. Just to know the partner, but also to get to know yourself, how you deal with things. And it's such a great learning process. But yeah, the vibes that are there at that moment, I know sometimes you don't think of anything else anymore.
Those were the times.
We still have those times. So
I hope so.
sure.
Otherwise, you're doing something wrong, Maarten.
It's just it is different.
It's different.
It's not wrong. It's better in a certain way. Life get better because you get to know each other better. But it's that that fresh new thing and that feeling like wow, this could be, that is just magical as well. Each season has its beautiful things. So
we didn't touch about the different stages yet. So once you start dating and then thinking about marriage, then the marriage itself, then the first 5-7 years, but then you are 15 years, you still learn so many different things, and it's another season in life.
We can write a book.
We probably
Maybe
could. So, but each season has its own reflection, or how do we need to explain?
Greatness.
Yeah, it's its own greatness, and we still love it a bit. So.
And we love
you cuties. Way too cute. Just as the kiddos. Anyway.
From their parents.
They've got it from somewhere, all right. Anyway, but thank you so much for making time for us today, for joining us today as well.
Pleasure.
I really appreciate it. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. And then, who knows, you might be able to meet some people that have watched it at some point, or if they have any questions, I'll probably get them to you guys or tag you on Facebook or something like that. But yeah, Thank you. Um,
Welcome.
yeah.
See you on Sunday.
Right. So that was the last one of this series. If you have questions in a bit, you're going to be able to ask questions. If you don't, then we're going to play some games and have some fun. But first of all, I want to say goodbye to those on the live stream. Quickly reminder, if you haven't filled out our survey yet, we really want to hear from you. And yeah, what you want to talk about, what you want us to preach about, what you're interested in, what your needs are as a student. For example, study locations or help with your time management or whatever. So just scan the QR code, go fill that in, and we'll happily, yeah, implement this on campus and make sure that we can do things that are actually relevant for you. And then next week we are starting a new series, and it's gonna be called Refresh, and it's gonna be a 3 or 4 week series. I don't know yet. Definitely 3, maybe 4. But we're gonna be talking about, okay, it's now exam time. It's almost summertime, almost holiday time, and people usually do get tired when it's around that time. So how do you keep spiritually healthy? How do you get emotionally refreshed? How does that work physically? So we're going to be looking into all of that from a biblical perspective and make it very practical to your life, but also light and fun, because that is part of the refreshing, right? So we're going to be launching that series next week for 3 weeks before we go into summertime. So thank you so much for joining us online, if you were online. And then I hope to see you next week. All right.